Hey, Mike, here we are doing another show and with another special guest. How are you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I'm doing all right. I really am. I'm excited about today's show. I've known this lady for a long time, and she did a show for me way back in a previous life. Well, maybe not that far, but I thought she was going to do the same type of show, but she says, "Well, I'm thinking about doing something a little bit different," and I really liked it. So, with that, let me introduce a lady that we refer to as Lady Joe. And welcome to the show, Joe.
Well, thanks. Thanks, Haas, and thanks, Mike, for having
You,
me. I'm
thank you.
excited to participate again and
Oh,
to do
this,
good things together.
yeah, this is going to be fun. It really is. The thing I like about doing radio is that I learn so much. The problem at this stage of my life, I forget it the next day. But it's like I can go on an Easter egg hunt every day and get excited. It's the same eggs, same places, but it's all new to me. So that's good.
Yeah.
But tell us, what's the name of your show?
The name of my show is Oh, the Places I've Been. And it is the other side of Oh, the Places You'll Go.
Yeah.
And everyone, Oh, the Places You Go, it's a wonderful poem by Dr. Seuss, who I adore, grew up with. And there were a lot of profound meanings in his simple rhymes. And that particular poem was all about hope and resilience and the future and being young and learning from mistakes and getting back up and trying again. And all of that was wonderful. But I really think a lot of value could be found now from those of us who grew up with that and have been through a lot and have exercised resilience and still come out with hope
Yeah.
and perhaps have something to share with anybody. Frankly, it transcends age. It's not older people talking to younger people. There's going to be any age of guest on who has something to share that they think can benefit others by hearing.
Absolutely. We were talking a week ago, and when I was living in Colorado, I got a chance to get a tour of the Castle Rock Senior Center. And the director of the senior center at that time would, as we go through a room, she would say, "Now that person over there, he worked for NASA, and that person over there, was on a battleship in World War II, and in fact, he was on the battleship at the same time that person over there was on the battleship, and they never knew each other, but now they're living together." And it was amazing. All the stories that were in that one room, and I realized, somebody needs to be taking notes because we're losing these stories every
Yeah,
day. And there's so much that we can share that it's hard to know. I can tell you a little tiny story, and it may be just what you need to hear at that
yeah,
moment. And it's no big deal to me, but it just made your day. And
absolutely.
I love being a part of that. I really do.
Oh yeah, and it goes along with that saying of to the world you might just be one person, but to one person you might just be the world. There might be
Absolutely.
something in what you say, how you say it, and at a certain time when they need to hear it, that can really make a difference. Make a difference on a level that can't be measured. There's no monetary value to it, but it's priceless in so many other ways. And Haas, you and I, we've talked before, and Mike, just so that you know, my my law career, the reason why I'm pivoting from Blind Justice, which was a legal topic show, to a show like this where there's stories to tell, is because my going to law school came out of a lot of heartache with losing my mom in a period of 6 weeks.
Mm.
So I was working at Abbott Laboratories, was doing quite well there. Get a call, my life is turned upside down for 6 weeks. There's no learning curve. She passed in that time of pancreatic cancer. And I was immersed into this world of helplessness. And I've never really been there before. I'm not built to be a victim. I'm not built to be voiceless. And it was frustrating for me, but sad. I was in nursing homes and hospices and hospitals, and everyone was suffering in their own way. And there's no learning curve. You can't say, oh, the next time I lose somebody, here's what I'm going to do and how I'm going to handle it. And so really, as an attorney then, once I got through law school, I reactivated the Elder Law Society. I became a veterans benefits attorney. I just wanted to serve and empower people with information to take the fear out of things that all of us are going to encounter in one way or another. But through all that, I came across in my estate planning practice what's called the ethical will. And Dr. Barry Baines, he is an oncologist who has a book out there called The Ethical Will. And the ethical will is actually Hebrew in origin, but it's all about your legacy. It's not a legally binding document, but I made it a part of every one of my clients' estate plans. It was in their writing or typed by them or at their direction, but all about what do you want to leave the world? Do you want this message to your surviving spouse, to your children, to your grandchildren, to certain individuals? But how do you capture your thoughts about love and forgiveness and lessons learned and hopes for the future? And again, not legally binding, but absolutely priceless, because it's a living document. And that when you go to it, if you're struggling with financial issues, you'll pull out that wisdom. If you're struggling with spiritual issues, you'll pull out that wisdom. And so in capturing all this and in working in these environments continuously, it was amazing to see how we sit with so many valuable lessons. And each of us have stories. There's nothing special that makes a story worth telling. If it's gotten you to a different place, a better place, if you've taken the right lessons forward and you have something to share, just in the sharing alone, that can be cathartic, that can be therapeutic. So it's a win-win-win. And I'm hoping that through this show, I'll be able to give people a platform where they can tell their story. And I can't imagine there's a story out there that couldn't benefit at least one other person.
Absolutely.
You know, I get this. I get what you're saying. I have on my desktop, I've got a document, a Word doc out there. I've called it the book. Well, 5 years ago, my daughter, youngest daughter, approached me and said, Dad, why don't you write some of your stuff down? You know, you're funny. You got a lot of things you can leave us, you know, leave the grandkids. And I thought about that for a long time. And about 5 years ago, I created this document. So I'll go in there and I'll put in my thoughts. What is today? What am I doing today? Where did I come from? Where did I live? I'm writing this for my grandchildren and great-grandchildren. It's something that maybe there's not a lot of wisdom in there, but there's a lot of me in there and my life, what I've done and accomplished, and even some of the bad things too. You know,
that's okay. And who's to judge, really, Mike? Because even the bad things made you who you are and helped you guide your children, who are now helping to guide your grandchildren. So
yeah, if they could read this and say, oh, you know what, Gramps, you know what, you were pretty smart back then. Of course, they didn't think that way when they were teenagers.
Oh, yeah.
How many of us actually said, my mom and dad are really smart when we're 15? Not many, but through life's learnings, to record it.
Mike, I'm so glad you're doing that. Yeah, and it's difficult. It's very difficult because people think, just like with regular estate plans, that, well, if I don't write it down, it's not going to happen. Well, it's going to happen. And so, you know, go ahead and write it down. And to this day, when my mom was passing and we were still all in shock, I still have the napkins in the scraps of paper where I tried to capture everything. And as my dad would chime in, I would try to capture that too. And he went on to live another 10 years after my mom. But nonetheless, I gave him this, what grandpa wants you to know type of book. And he wasn't a writer. It just wasn't his thing. He was a reader and a talker. And so instead, he went ahead and put it on a cassette for me. And
Wow,
I
good.
still have that and treasure that. And this was before the ethical will. This was before a lot of different things. But now there's no more important gift you can give your children than your story.
Absolutely. And I'm not a writer either. I just don't have the patience for it.
Mhm.
But some have told me that I'm a talker. I don't know where that comes from.
I gotta
Maybe.
hang on. I gotta lap this one out.
Maybe because I'm always hearing "shut up." But anyway, but no, that's one of the things I wanted to do. I've got stories, and when I tell I call them I've got cancer stories. I went through a year's worth of experimental chemo 24 years ago. I wasn't expected to live. I'm still here. It tells me that I was supposed to live. Don't know why, but I've still got something to share. And along the way, I had so many things happen to me that I didn't realize at the time how important they were. But in reflecting back, oh my gosh, that happened and that happened. And man, I can't believe that happened. That's
Right.
just kind of weird. And so, I've told some of these stories to friends, and they're going, "That makes hair on my back of my neck stand up," but it's real. And what it has helped me to do is pay attention to what's going on around me, because I'm probably living in one of those stories right now that a couple years from now I'm going, Mike, I remember the day that we first talked to Joe about doing the show, and look what happened, and this and that. And it's all
Right.
good stuff. And so, I want to share my stories. I want you to share your stories. And I know you're going to invite the audience to be a
Oh,
part of this. And, whether they want to actually be on camera like we are now, we can make that happen. If they want to just say, no, I don't want to do that, but I'll type you an email, that's
Right.
okay too.
Absolutely.
And
And I'll do the best to honor it. My hope is that giving people a platform to speak, that it's a dialogue and it's not. I'm hoping that politics doesn't creep in. I'm hoping that
Right.
it's not just a place to vent. I'm not a trained psychologist on any level, but post 2020, post COVID, where we were all in isolation, we all still have a tendency to remain in isolation in our own selves.
Yeah,
We're slowly physically getting out there, but emotionally and people have been through a lot in the last couple of years.
absolutely.
And we're still not in a stable situation worldwide as well as domestically. So it's just a way for people to connect and benefit from each other in a very non-judgmental way.
Absolutely. And I've got a project I've been thinking about trying to reenact, if you will. And I may have the nucleus of the team to make that happen this year. I was involved in a readers theater group in Colorado a number of years ago, and we actually produced a play, if you will, and it happened every year around Veterans Day, and it became stories of military people doing what turned out to be heroic things. They didn't realize it necessarily at the time. But I believe someplace in my archives, I've got the book of all these stories. And I would like to be able to do it on the radio. And I would love to have you involved in it. I'd love to have Mike involved in it. Nothing you have to memorize. Is just here's the story. Take the time to really immerse yourself into it and take that role, and then tell your story with feeling. And I'll tell you what, it's tough to get through. I remember one rehearsal we had, um, at the Castle Rock Library. And the normal room that we use, which was out of sight, was being used. And so if you've ever been in the Castle Rock Library, right in the middle of the library is a room that's got two glass walls. And
Mm.
you can see right into this room no matter where you're at in the library. So we're rehearsing this. We're just sitting around, and it happened to be the first rehearsal. And I thought, I've got the best story. This is just going to be great. Then I found everybody else's story was just as great. But there was a lady sitting next to me, didn't know who she was. She started reading it through, and then she's actually screaming, hysterical. And I'm going, we're in a library. You can't do this. But I mean, she had taken on the role of this person. And people were, I'm kind of looking around and everybody's staring in there thinking that somebody's getting hurt in this room. But oh my gosh, she just nailed it. And I sat there thinking, oh, so you really want us to get involved. And
Mhm.
yeah, and it makes for a great story. And, we all learn something from it. And I gained such a huge respect for people in World War II
Mhm.
and the following eras that
Absolutely.
the hell they went through.
Right. And we're
And
losing them and we're losing their
yeah,
stories. And the only way we can keep those is if there's a transfer, some sort
absolutely.
of a transfer.
And
But,
so we're going to put it on radio, we're going to record it,
good.
and we're going to keep the recordings. And who knows? I think we can touch some lives. And I'm going to follow your lead on this. But I think I'm just really excited. I'm
I am.
excited about the caliber of show hosts that
Mhm.
we've got coming on. Um, I hope Mike is too, because he's been a part of the recordings this week, and he's kind of let me fly by the seat of my pants. Hey, I got this person, that, and he goes, well, okay, and here they all are, and I'm almost out of gas this week, man. I'll tell you, I've been on an emotional high because we are really creating something special, and it's not me, it's not Mike, it's people like Joe,
Mhm.
who are going to do some amazing things. And
But people like me couldn't do it without people like you and Mike. And so it
well,
really does come full circle. And it's all about serving each other, right?
absolutely. And I'm going to let
Yes.
the cat out of the bag just a little bit. We've got a meeting this next week with a local uh, former DJ, if you will, when they were called DJs. I actually grew up with this guy. He was on one of the two top 40 radio stations in Phoenix. I happened to like KRUX. That was my home, but there was something about this guy's show. Every time he was on, I had to switch over and listen to him, but I wouldn't admit that to anybody. Well, he obviously, like the rest of us, got older. He ended up being on the number one country station in Phoenix and had the number one morning show for years and years and years, and he's done a lot of public service. I mean, he just really adopted Phoenix, and Phoenix has adopted him. He is a member. He's now retired, but he is a member of the Arizona Broadcasters Hall of Fame,
Wow.
and that's a pretty elite group. And I reached out to him a few weeks ago and I said, his name is W. Stephen Martin. And I said, W, I've been in and out of radio, and I'm a lot happier when I'm in radio because once you get bit by the radio bug, it doesn't go away. And I've got to believe that there's a part of you that would like to still do radio. And I was shocked. I got a reply back in about 15 minutes as you're right. I do miss it. I don't miss doing a daily show and all the grind that goes into that, but I have stories to tell. It all comes back to stories,
Right.
and I
Yes.
love it. We have another guy who I did listen to on the radio station that I was addicted to. His name is Al McCoy. Al McCoy now has no, he hasn't retired. He's not on radio anymore, but he was the original broadcaster, play-by-play broadcaster for the Phoenix Suns. And now at 89 years old, he is still the play-by-play announcer. His voice is just as strong as ever, and he and W are good friends. And I'm thinking this guy's got all kinds of stories, that he can tell. So that's what we're building. And growing up, my mom says, it's not nice to tell a story, but you know what, Mom? You just got to tell the right story. And
Right.
so
And my mom always said, Joey, make sure you think before you speak. So every story should follow the think acronym of, is it true? Is it helpful? Is it inspirational? Is it necessary? And is it kind? And if it is, then it passes a gate that needs it to be told.
Absolutely. I love it. I absolutely love it. Well, I encourage the audience to tune in. You'll be able to listen to this on K-Heat Radio just as you would any other radio station, any other show. But now, really thanks to COVID and all the things we've learned from COVID, I wish I had bought stock in this company called Zoom a long time ago, because I could have been a rich man right now. Everybody knows about Zoom. That's how we're doing it. And we're going to have show hosts not only from Arizona, from Colorado. We've got one from New Jersey. We've got one from Georgia. And I know I'm missing a few, but we'll have some from overseas too before this is all said and done. And I'm really excited about it, because everybody's going to be focusing on different things, but it comes back to everybody's going to be telling a story.
Right.
And as a listener, I like it.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry, Haas. Sometimes I'm thinking so fast in the Chicago and he comes out and I just gotta,
anyway. Chicago. All right.
And I've never had that problem of thinking too fast. So, no, but I think as a listener, I love to listen to stories like that. And the best storyteller of them all is actually doing some little bits every day. A guy named Paul Harvey. And we can all learn from Paul. I mean, what a master. He could, what I would take 2 hours to tell you, he could sum it up and tell you in 5 minutes. And I need to learn that. So I'm going to work on that. But, people will be able to listen to Paul Harvey on K-Heat Radio as well throughout the day. He has so much wisdom, and there's so many broadcasts that we have available to us. So it's going to be a fun ride. It really is.
Oh, yeah. And this is in terms of universality. What's wonderful is that it's not just that show hosts are spread out geographically, but so too then will be the guests and the listeners. And even overseas, especially if we decide to have a veteran segment, maybe once a month, I'll make sure that it's a military, either active duty, veteran, whatever, and have them come on. And they could be stationed anywhere in the world. But they can touch a piece of home. And I'm excited.
One thing with the last radio station we were all involved with in Colorado, Mike and I had talked about doing something, and it just never happened. Maybe we can do it this year because of Zoom. One of the TV stations there would always allow, I don't know if it's Veterans Day, I think it's probably Christmas time. You'd all of a sudden see a commercial, and it was Airman John Smith, stationed over in Germany right now. I'd like to say Merry Christmas to Mom and Dad and sister and whatever. And it gave Mom and Dad a chance not only to hear their son, but to see him on TV. Let's do that again. I mean, you can open it up and allow these people to call in. We can record it. We can then not only have them show them how you can play it on TV, but we can send them the recording. So it's something that they've got. And it's just, I think it's little things like that that can be a lot of fun and very important, at least to that family. And so sometimes we have to focus on the small audience at hand, and hopefully the rest of the audience will think, you know what, that's good. It's
Well,
not
Yeah.
my family, but boy, I can relate to that.
yeah, I like that idea, Hoss, because you can take it from the battlefield to the farm,
Yeah,
Mhm.
and just instantly. When I was in Vietnam, in order for me to hear from my wife or my family, it took a week, and that would be a week for my message to get my letter to get home.
yeah,
They in turn would have to write a letter and send it back. We didn't have the communication that we have today.
no,
So
Right.
I really
Right.
like that idea of doing something like that. I'm in favor of it.
Well, Mike, first of all, thank you so much for your service. It's
Thank
it's
you.
men and women like the men and women of our military forces that just are the reason why we can go on air, is the reason why we can pick our topics, and that we're
yeah.
free to speak our truth, our lessons, and our stories. So thank you so much for what you did.
Oh, thank you. I've
And
been working. I'm sorry, House, but I've been working with and around veterans since I came back in 1967. I've gone to
Wonderful.
many organizations. I'm still involved, even retired out here in Arizona. I'm vice president of the Veterans Club here where I live. And I do the newsletters and I do a lot of things for this club. And it's
Isn't that
rewarding
Yes.
Well, in
because
fact,
not
that's
only am
how.
I a veteran, but my comrades, I'm living with them
Right.
and
Yeah.
in some cases for them.
Isn't
Wow.
that something?
Well,
Yeah,
that's
and
how.
I'm also a veterans benefits attorney. So if any of your people, if any of the veterans need some advice or guidance, not necessarily from a legal perspective, but based on my legal experience and being
Yeah,
accredited by the VA, I'd be happy to help them.
that's
Thank you,
awesome.
Joe.
Absolutely. That's how Mike and I met. I had heard about an organization called Rolling Thunder, and they made an annual pilgrimage back to Washington, D.C. every year on motorcycles. And I thought, wow, I had just started writing again. Man, I would love to do that. And I happen to know a guy, and he says, well, I know a guy that's involved with Rolling Thunder. In fact, we're writing this next week. Why don't you meet us at this location? And so I rode up. I got there early. I'm at one end of the parking lot. I see another guy on a motorcycle at the other end of the parking lot who also got there early, and it turned out to be this guy right here. And
Wonderful.
we've become very good friends. But later that year in 2014, we were part of an eight-man group that rode from Denver, Colorado to Washington, D.C. and back.
Nice.
7 people were members of Rolling Thunder. We had one guest that came along for the ride, but of the 7 people, one has passed away. So leaving 6, out of those 6 that went to Denver, 4 of us now live within 20 miles of each other in Arizona. Now, we lived within 20 miles of each other in Colorado. Who would have thought that the group, we didn't move all at the same time, but within a couple of years, we were all here. And I was the one saying, guys, don't go. You'll hate it. It's too hot. So here I am. I'm back. But it's great. It's great to be with these guys and to be with other veterans because again, what do we do when we go someplace? We share stories. Not
Mhm.
necessarily all military, but we share stories. And
Right.
and so it's just a fun thing. You'll never run out of guests to interview. You'll never run out of topics to touch. So
No doubt. No doubt. And I
really,
am looking forward to all of that because, like you just said, Haas, I mean, everybody's got that story. But if you notice, there's always what prevents that from being told as freely as I wish stories were told is shame, feeling shame over what you went through. When you can,
yeah,
if you can just shift that to the benefit for others, there's nobody who doesn't want to help somebody else, or there's very few people that aren't built that way. And so just to somehow erase the shame with whatever the situation was, but to bring forth the wisdom from it and make it a safe place to talk about.
Well, it's a safe
Yes.
place, and especially if you're talking to somebody that you know gets you. One of the story that I read in this Reader's Theater, one night I think we had 7 or 8 stories that we read, and we had the original storytellers in the audience that night. And after I did my story, and it's a very, very emotional story, and I finally realized who my storyteller was. But after we were done, the lights come up and, everybody's applauding and we're feeling pretty proud of ourselves. And I see my guy walking out of the building. And I'm going, oh my gosh, I hope I didn't offend him. I thought I had, done a decent job. Well, the director saw him leave too. And she motioned for her husband, who, like this storyteller, was a Marine. And he cut him off out in the back of the building and just introduced himself really quick. And he said the old guy is standing there. He had tears streaming down his face. And he said, no, just let me go. You don't understand. And the director's husband said, yes, sir, I do understand. I'm a Marine as well. And all of a sudden, that gave him permission to say, okay, let's talk about this. And he finally was able to bring him back up. I wasn't able to talk too much because I was so emotional about the story. And here was the guy that lived it. I just told the story, but he lived it. I couldn't imagine how he did it. And we stood there, we hugged, we cried, and he said, thank you. So
see, that's wonderful, Haas, because it's not, there's example after example I could provide where really we're all walking wounded. We all are. And we talk about going through something, but until we've had that good cry, until we've made meaning of what we've been through, we're not through it yet. We're stuck, but there is the other side of it. And to really get through something, I think, takes sharing and a vulnerability to tell your truth. And to give it meaning so you can truly let it go and get completely through the experience and still impart wisdom on people that perhaps by hearing what you have to say may avoid some of the same lessons.
Absolutely. And now the audience who have stories to tell are going to be able to tell it to benefit so many people, but they'll be able to do it from the comfort and safety of their own home.
Right.
Because we can do it with Zoom, and you don't have to look at anybody in the eye, but just realize you're helping people. You truly are.
And you can come on anonymous. You can, this isn't about exposing anything or impeding on anybody's privacy.
No, and we can, if you want to tell your story, but you don't want to be seen, we can show you how to turn the camera off. I have no problem with that. We can not even divulge your real name if that's what you'd like. But we just want that story to get out because you will have a positive effect on a lot of people.
Right.
So, man, I cannot wait to get started.
Me neither.
Just keep getting better and better. All right. Well, let's go ahead and wrap this one up today. Thank you so much for not only being here today, Joe, but thanks for agreeing to be a part of this thing that we call K-Heat Radio. We are trying really hard to build something special. And I'm so happy that you're a part of it because you're a very special person. And I'm glad we got a chance to meet all those years ago. And,
yes, I am too, Haas.
Stay in touch.
Absolutely. And now I know Mike, and I think between us all, we're going to have a really good run with this. It'll be a very meaningful and beneficial show for a lot of people.
Absolutely,
Joe.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, Mike, we've done another one, and Phew, I am out of gas.
Is it
I'm
nap
so
time?
yeah, I'm just so
It's
excited.
somewhere.
Yeah, but I'm so excited with all the things and coming together and how they're coming together and the people and listeners out there. Tell a friend. Share this story with or share these shows with other people because we want a worldwide audience. I know the last
Yes.
station at one time we were told we were the fastest growing internet radio station west of the Mississippi. It's back in 2012, and we were
Mhm.
second in the country only to this station called Pandora, which really paved the way for all internet radio stations. And to be
Exactly.
mentioned in the same breath as Pandora, I couldn't believe it. But the streaming company that handled our stream, they said, how are you getting the word out? I said, it's real simple. We're doing it word of mouth, one person
Absolutely.
at a time. And now we've got Facebook to use. We can you can tell your story on Facebook. Hey, you got to tune into K Heat Radio, and you're not talking to just one person. You're talking to maybe 20 or 25. And if we
Mhm.
can get them to
Yeah.
do it and them to do it, all of a sudden, we found with the other station at one point we had listeners in all 50 states and 114 countries.
Mhm.
How in the world did that happen? But
Right.
I'll tell a story down the road about one listener that called me from in the middle of the night here from Cork, Ireland, and I'm going, I don't understand how we connected, but we did. And so that's the beauty of this thing. So, these stories are going to go international. Our streaming company is based in the UK. They've got over, what is it, 72 million people that tune in to their stations every month. So we have a huge audience that's available for us to be exposed to. It's up to us to do good shows, and by golly, I think we've got some awesome shows coming up. So again, Joe, thanks for your time. Mike,
That-
as always, it's good to see you, my friend. And folks, tune in next week because we'll be going live and it's going to be a fun ride. So until then, peace out.
See ya.
Hi, guys.